Hello, everybody, and welcome to our New Jersey primary preview stream. A nice little relaxed discussion with me and Ethan, who works with me on the ratings. Big man behind the scenes for a lot of the data that I put into the articles. And we're happy today to discuss the primary because we will be the two people covering the primary on June 8th, this upcoming Tuesday. So we're very excited to go over all that. We'll take your questions, but we'll also be going over, in order, really, all the big races to watch for the legislature and obviously for governor as well.
Yep. Hi, Ethan. I'm technically helping with both the Virginia and the New Jersey ratings, but home state here. Gotta love it. We'll be doing next Tuesday.
Yep. So I guess we'll start off with the gubernatorial race, which we currently rate as likely Democratic pre-primary. Governor Phil Murphy is running for re-election and attempting to become the first sitting Democratic governor in 44 years to win re-election. Because I don't really personally count Corzine following up McGreevey in 2005 because it's not the same guy. But you can say what you want. And on the Republican side, Jack Ciattarelli, former assemblyman, current businessman, and he ran in 2017 as well against Kim Guadagno, now has effectively the line across the state, which is the golden standard in New Jersey politics, and is all but essentially the shoo-in by the state party to become the gubernatorial nominee.
Yeah, just if you're watching the stream, you probably know what the line is, but just a quick reminder of what the line is. Harrison, you want to pull up a sample ballot?
Yeah, sure. Give me a second. Just talk about it while I find one.
Yeah. So essentially, in each county, the party organization there can endorse a slate of candidates, and when you endorse them on the ballot, you will see in like a literal line of candidates, like for governor, state senate, state assembly, freeholder, although they're called county commissioner now.
Yeah.
You know, all that stuff, and it'll be labeled like, say, Somerset Republican Committee or something like that. It'll be all the way down on your primary ballot. And notably, generally in primary, this is the only organization to have the money and the petition power to like endorse candidates for every single office. So when you look at the ballot, you generally see one line full of candidates or endorsed by the same organization, and then you see like a scattering of other candidates across the other columns. And so what happens is this is a great signaling mechanism to voters. Okay, these are the candidates I clearly should vote for. And therefore, this is what makes the line such a powerful tool every single primary.
Mm-hmm.
You can look here, yeah.
And again, this is a current ballot this year for governor. And I guess that plays well into the other aspect of the race. Doug Steiner, the chair, he might be former chair. I don't remember if he's left office since.
He's former chair now, but he was
chair now. Yeah, but at the time he was running, but he dropped out of the race pretty early. He was famous for pretty much releasing a new attack on Governor Murphy every day, and his exit from the race was kind of surprising at first to some of us. And that pretty much leaves Phil Rizzo, who is a minister or pastor, one of the such things, a more minor candidate, didn't even get invited to the single debate that Ciattarelli had against Hirsch Singh, who we all know, and there's no way of being polite about it. Hirsch Singh is objectively pretty much a joke candidate here. I mean, his most credible run was definitely the 2018 Senate primary against Rick Maida. He had the line in a few counties in South Jersey and managed to actually become about 2 points away from winning the whole primary. And before that, his second district primary to succeed Frank Lo-Biondo against Seth Grossman, he actually came decently close there too, like 9 points. But now he's running for governor. It's the second time he's run for governor. And he's done some controversial things, and I think we'll just leave it at that. Not popular among the state party. I mean, most recently, his campaign manager, on top of all the crazy things he said, including getting the second debate canceled by refusing to allow Hirsch Singh to cooperate with getting a COVID test, has now apparently insulted Jack Ciattarelli's son, who serves in the Army, for living at home, which is ironic because Hirsch Singh lives at home as well.
Yeah, He literally lives in his parents' house, and
His
the reason he's able to compete at all is because there's a loophole in New Jersey campaign finance where if you basically if you live with your household, basically, I think you can get unlimited funds from your parents, and so that's what he's done. Normally, there's limits on how much people can contribute to your campaign, but if you live in your parents' home like Hirsch Singh, well, your rich dad can just fund your entire campaign.
Even for Senate, when he ran last year, if you remember, oh crap, what was I going to say? Yes, he basically tried to get people to commit voter fraud because he was on the line with David Richter in Burlington County, and he said something or other like vote twice or something because we were taking advantage of that COVID mail-in ballot type situation along with in-person voting as a traditional method, and just not a very formal candidate. His most recent comments not his campaign manager's most recent comments have drawn the ire of so many state Republicans now that pretty much zero organization or establishment Republicans are backing him. And quite a few have called for him to either fire the campaign manager, drop out of the race, or both, which I can guarantee you none of those things are going to happen because it's Hirsch Singh.
He's gonna call the election fraudulent on Tuesday.
Well,
the establishment rigged it for Rhino Jack Chitterelli or something.
For reference, Hirsch Singh is the type of candidate who would say stop the steal. He's associated with QAnon, whether directly or indirectly, we don't really know. But this is the type of Republican we're talking about, not a Republican that would win a New Jersey gubernatorial race or make it competitive like Jack Chitterelli, who's actually, a pretty moderate conservative, someone who's definitely more potable to New Jersey voters than Hirsch Singh. But on top of that, I believe Chitterelli has the line in every county. I'm almost
every
100%.
county that has a line. I think Salem doesn't have a line, but
it does.
But every county that does have a line, Jack Chitterelli got it,
and even important endorsements from New Jersey Republicans. There have been zero for Hirsch Singh from extremely credible Republicans in the state. And if you look at New Jersey history, winning off the line is very difficult. When Chitterelli ran for governor against Kim Guadagno in 2017, he won, I believe, Somerset, a few other counties in central Jersey, counties where he had the line. When Hirsch Singh came close in the Senate primary, in Atlantic, Cape May, Burlington, he had the line in those counties. But when you have the line in zero counties and you don't seem very credible, it's very, very difficult to vote. Even on our most recent ballot, when I was explaining to my dad about the candidates, how he would vote, he's like, I will vote for the endorsed candidates, the Republican Somerset County column 1. And it's like, see, I'm telling you, for people that aren't interested in politics like us and don't really take a dedicated interest in these elections, having a nice line of all your candidates, your safe bets, is how everybody's going to vote. For the Democrats and for the Republicans, most of the time. Very rare. And that's why people call New Jersey a machine state.
In addition, another thing that contributes to the lines just for more obscure is the fact that it's really hard to get on the ballot in New Jersey. You need Phil Murphy's running unopposed right now because both of his primary challengers, they didn't file their signatures correctly. Well, actually, one of them didn't file enough signatures correctly because it required an insane number of petitions relative to other states, and the other one just straight up committed fraud.
Do you think that was an error with the Republicans not nominating the second or not? I mean, they had a second assembly candidate in the third running, but do you think it was a filing error or something, or just dropping out? Or
we'll get to that later. I don't know. Although other candidates didn't really file many reports either, which makes you think the assembly candidate he did run doesn't have any documents at all, which is, I just find that weird at the very least. Apparently, there's a way you can write in if you write in enough names for your candidate and you can win the write-in vote, then the candidate can file their reports later on and they'll get a second candidate. So if that happens, we might take the race more seriously. But if that doesn't happen, we'll get to that later. But yeah.
So why don't we kind of do our final thoughts on the gubernatorial race? Because honestly, I expect Chitterelli to win in a landslide very easily and continue his campaign in its current style against Murphy. What do you think? I
agree absolutely. And as I mentioned before, Phil Murphy straight up is running unopposed because one candidate didn't file enough signatures, something went wrong, and the other one is Lisa McCormick, a very fun candidate who
The Democratic version of Hirsch Singh, basically.
yeah, the Democratic version of Hirsch Singh, who fraudulently put in every single signature she had. Like the judge literally said, each one of these signatures, including the one that's literally called first name, last name, we're throwing all of them out. Yeah, she did a mail merge. None of them are real, and she's gonna go to jail or something. I don't know.
We'll see. Either way.
By the way, she's a candidate who got like 38% in the primary against Bob Menendez in 2018. So we almost sent the Democratic version of Hirsch Singh to the Senate. So that was a fun time, but yeah.
I guess that just showed you two things about New Jersey voters. First off, how much they actually dislike Bob Menendez in the primary race. And then secondly, despite Bob Hugin being a great candidate on paper, how much voters just wanted to say no to the Republicans in the age of Trump, even with someone like Menendez.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway, but yeah, Jack Ciattarelli is going to win the primary by, I think, 30 points at least or something. You know, we'll see.
We'll see. So without further ado, let's move on to the legislature. I think we'll start off with the state assembly. And feel free to add on to any districts here, but we'll start with the 2nd district. And again, some of these districts we can just move through pretty quickly because you have 2 assembly candidates for both parties, both endorsed by the line. This is the example here. It's a Biden plus 10.7 seat in Atlantic County. Vincent Mazzeo, one of the 2 Democratic incumbents with John Armato, is retiring to run for Chris Brown's opening Senate seat because he's retiring. And the candidates here are Republicans Claire Swift and Donald Guardian, both endorsed, and John Armato, the incumbent, and the second candidate to receive the line there is Karen Fitzpatrick. And we have this ranked as a toss-up.
Yeah, you might think it's weird that we label a seat that's like, that was Clinton plus 12 and like Biden plus 11, like Philip Murphy plus 17. You'd think it really labeled as a toss-up, but for the record, Chris Brown, the Republican, flipped the seat in 2017 against the Democratic incumbent, and this seat, like it was like 10 years back, was also a Republican seat. And last 2019, the 2 Democratic incumbents almost in the assembly almost lost re-election. So this is a place where despite being in South Jersey, this place is sort of like more Republican down ballot in some ways.
And I think that's important to note about New Jersey in general. In a lot of places in the North and the South, it is more Republican down ballot than at the top of the ballot. That's why you've had people like Kit Bateman and Tom Kaine and even Anthony Bucco Jr.
Although there is one notable exception that we'll be getting to next later.
Yep. Yes. All right. So do you have any other comments about this assembly race, this fundraising like that?
Do you want to talk about the Senate race as well, or do we want to do that later?
That's what I was planning on doing, is doing the districts like that. So the Senate race here, same district because we use the same seats for Assembly and for Senate. This is the seat of Chris Brown. He's retiring after just 1 term. He won in 2017, flipping the seat from the Democrats. Vincent Mazzeo is the Democratic nominee, uncontested here. And the Republican primaries between Vince Palestina, the fundraising leader, also endorsed, has the line in Atlantic County, and it's only a 1-county district. And Seth Grossman, who was the controversial 2018 Republican nominee for New Jersey's 2nd congressional district, frankly said many offensive and racist things during that campaign that have dogged him since then. And now he is challenging Vince Palestina in the primary here. And personally, I expect Palestina to win for 2 reasons. First, fundraising leader, and 2, honestly, this could probably go in first. The line, I think the line's hard to beat. You rarely see upset and surprise grassroots victories by more conservative candidates like Grossman in primaries, but we'll see. What do you think?
Yeah, in addition, Vince Palestina was also the former assemblyman here until he lost. I think he lost re-election, but yeah. So he has name recognition here. Obviously, Grossman also has name recognition here, although I'd assume not in a good way. So Grossman should have no chance. The NRA for some reason endorsed him like 2 days ago, which he's got like no money. Palestinians should easily win this. In the 1% case that Grossman somehow wins, this is almost a guaranteed flip for the Democrats because the guy's a nut job, and it's a pretty heavily Biden.
He's like another Hirsch Singh. Basically, to put it lightly, we have this race as a toss-up because Palestina is a great candidate on paper for the Republicans, and much like Chris Brown, it would be a nice race, competitive to follow. But somebody like Seth Grossman would move this race gone for the Republicans. Essentially, that would be very bad.
Fun fact: guess who Seth Grossman won his primary against in 2018? A certain Hirsch Singh. So, but yeah,
maybe they should run together for something.
Oh gosh, Hirsch Singh Grossman.
All right, let's see. So now we'll be moving on to the third legislative district. We're not doing all of them in order. We're just focusing first on races with competitive general elections, and then after that, we'll go to talk about some safe seats that have competitive primaries and important changes that are just going to really apply this Tuesday and won't really matter in November. So the third is a Trump plus 1.6 district. So Trump basically won this district by 2 points. Traditionally Democratic, though, and this is the exception, I think, that Ethan was going to mention here, and we'll get to that in a second. So we're talking about Assembly first. This district's made up of Cumberland, Gloucester, and Salem County. And the Republicans, notably, whether intentionally or accidentally, managed to not get their second Assembly candidate that had originally filed on the ballot. So Bethane McCarty is the only, or Bethan, I'm not sure how you say that, is the only Republican on the ballot here in a Trump district represented by Democrats in the Assembly and in the Senate. And the Assemblymen here are John Berzichelli and Adam Taliaferro. We ranked this, we originally had it as lean Democratic because it is a Trump seat. And we thought, well, maybe Republicans could put up a good fight. Maybe they'd have a little bit of momentum during a Biden administration. Who knows? But no, likely Democratic. I personally agree with Ethan's reasoning here that it's almost impossible to justify a truly competitive rating in a seat where you don't have a second candidate here. Do you have any comments about this race before we move on to the Senate?
Yeah, actually, we could probably combine this with the Senate, so we want to move on to that first.
Yeah, sure. And the Senate seat notably belongs to Steve Sweeney, famous and beloved by some, infamous and hated by others, the president of the New Jersey State Senate. He faces a fringe primary challenge from a guy named Mario DeSantis, and the Republican challenger there is Edward Durr, and he is uncontested. So we rank that as likely Democratic, again, really making it the only exception to the rule of Republicans being stronger down ballot in Democratic districts. The one true Republican competitive district they happen to be weak in.
Yeah, to give some context on why we think a Trump district is likely to go to the Democrats. In 2017 and 2019, Democrats in 2019 the Assembly Democrats won pretty handily here. I think the combined Democratic vote was 9 points higher than the combined Republican vote. And then in 2017, we had what's still the most expensive state legislative race in New Jersey against a certain Steve Sweeney. And he wasn't opposed just by the Republicans. And remember, it was still a Trump district at the time. He wasn't opposed just by the Republicans, but also by the teachers union in New Jersey, which is the largest interest group in New Jersey. They spent I think $2 million on him.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and Sweeney literally told Murphy hey, tell him to cut it out. And Murphy's I don't know what you're talking about. I can't do anything about this. So Murphy basically tacitly endorsed getting rid of him, which is why they had a very frosty relationship for the first 2 years.
Yeah,
but now
he
ended up winning that 17 points
for governors for a while. I mean, he had frothy relations. Honestly, what's funny is Steve Sweeney probably had from what I've ascertained, a much better relationship with Republican like Chris Christie than with Phil Murphy, a member of his own party, just because of their leadership style.
Yeah, Sweeney ended up winning that race by 17.5%. Yeah, so
a lot.
We can rag on Republicans for not trying here, and honestly, they should try because why wouldn't you? It's a Trump district, but at the same time, it's not completely illogical. Democrats, this is a district where down ballots, Democrats are historically strong. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yep. So both likely Democratic. Now moving on to our 8th legislative district. for competitive seats, composed of Atlantic, Burlington, and Camden counties. This is a Biden +7 district. And something notable here, both the incumbent Republican assembly people are retiring. Ryan Peters, who was considered a rising star by many in the party, is retiring, presumably just to spend more time with his family. And Gene Stanfield is retiring to make a bid for Senate. So the two Republicans here are Michael Teresi and Brandon Umba. And the two Democrats are Mark Natale and Allison Eckel. I know Mark Natale's run before. I'm not sure about Eckel. The race is a toss-up by our logic, and we expect this to be one of the most competitive races in New Jersey because, again, Republicans are stronger down ballot, and in a Biden +7 seat in New Jersey, that's pretty much even if you have good Republican candidates. And in the Senate, we also consider it a toss-up, same district. This is one that's notable because Dawn, do you say, is it Adagio? How do you say her last name again?
I think it's Adiego. I'm not sure.
Adiego? Yeah, Dawn Marie Adiego, I'll just say that. Was elected as a Republican and served for a while as a Republican in the state Senate, but changed her party affiliation in, I believe, 2017 or 2018, and since then has been a Democrat, which fits the trends in the district because it's been growing more Democratic, like many traditionally Republican districts in this state. But you can still have competitive races, and Assemblywoman Gene Stanfield is a great candidate for this race, and we expect it to be very competitive. Toss-up for sure, in my opinion. Do not look at the presidential margins in these districts and say, oh, it's Biden by 7 points or Biden by double digits. It can't be competitive. That would be the same logic you could say that by that logic that Edward Durr is going to beat Steve Sweeney, which is very unlikely. You have to kind of suspend belief and remember that New Jersey is very inelastic statewide and at the federal level, but there is a lot of voter change and even ticket splitting down the ballot, especially in an off year where you're just focusing on the legislature and you don't have any hyper-partisan presidential ticket up for grabs.
Yeah, part of it is also the turnout dynamics of an off-year election also tend to differ slightly from the presidential year. So, for instance, in Steve Sweeney's district, part of the reason it's so democratic in off-year elections is the turnout from unions. So, the Democratic machine, a literal turnout machine there, of like local office holders. So, like, the people, the electorate in an off-year election, not only are they more tuned into elections because they turned out and therefore are probably more prone to ticket splitting, which is especially true like up north 30. Like, these people are all, as Harrison said, like, because it's off year, they can focus more on state issues, and so a lot of these, like, for instance, suburbanites, like, they like federal Democrats, but they also don't like their taxes going up. So,
what I like to say is a good adage here is the New Jersey Republicans or these suburban moderates vote the way that they used to vote federally a couple years ago continuously at the state level because they don't have to worry about somebody like Trump being associated with their vote.
Yeah.
It doesn't have federal implications. It's just affecting their state.
Yeah. As Harrison mentioned, Don Diego switched parties a few years ago, so Democrats haven't won a race here in decades, and Democrats heavily contested the assembly districts here in 2019 and lost by like 3 points. So
and Mark Natale is one of the candidates running again, I believe, from that.
It's a toss-up district.
So I guess we'll move on now to the 11th district, which, like the 2nd district, is based within one county. In this case, it's Monmouth County, right on the shore above Ocean County. This is a Biden +12 seat. It's the home of Vin Gopal, who is actually one of the rising stars within the Democrats. He beat a Republican incumbent named Jennifer Beck in 2017 by about 6 points, a fairly stable margin. And now he's running for re-election against a Republican named Lori Annetta. This is not, in my opinion, one of the top races for Republicans that they could have a chance to pick up, though things might change. So we currently have it rated likely Democratic as a hold. And moving to the Assembly, which I meant to do first, but it doesn't really matter. Both Democratic incumbents, Joanne Downey and Eric Hotaling, if you say it that way, are running for re-election against Republicans Kim Oilner and Marilyn Piperino. One notable difference, we rate this one as lean Democratic because we personally think Republicans have a better chance at theoretically winning the assembly seats here than they do of winning the Senate seat. And I think Ethan could add some extra context to that because you were one of the pushes behind the rating.
Yeah, part of this is just like Vinco Powell is a he was the old chair of the Monmouth Democratic Party. He's the one who orchestrated Hotelink and Downey. Well, I think wins in 2015, and he's like a fundraising machine. He's a fundraising machine. He fundraises so much. I looked at his campaign finance report yesterday. He is doing like $300,000 of his own funds to other candidates. Yes, which is like for okay. If you're used to federal numbers, yeah, it's not that much. But like for state races, that's a huge amount. Like huge amount. And we personally think that like Republicans have a better shot picking up the assembly candidates because they won by a smaller margin in 2019. They only won by their combined vote was like 6.4%.
Yeah,
6.4% higher than the Republicans.
They're not as strong as Vin Gopal, to put it simply.
Yeah. This is more. Yeah, this is this obviously a bit subjective, but we think that Vinco Powell is not going to be as heavily contested by Republicans. He's probably going to be a stronger candidate there.
Mm-hmm. And looking at your fundraising data here, if I'm reading it correctly, it's kind of hilarious seeing that he raised $1.19 million and what a net is raised like $3,000.
Yeah, to be fair to a lot of these candidates here they only just registered as candidates like at most a month before the fundraising deadline. So
yeah,
a lot of the new candidates are going to have small totals. But yeah, Vinco Powell has a huge war chest. Like he raised he over the last year, I believe. Like since I believe this campaign cycle is lasting last year, he's raised $1 million, which for a state legislative race, that's a huge amount.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I've heard some people say he might be a name for governor in 2025.
Yeah, he's aggressively courting. One way to aggressively court, favor is to donate a ton of money to their campaigns.
People, yes.
Yeah, so that's he's clearly doing that.
Yep. Moving on to Legislative District 16, again, traditionally Republican down ballot, but very Democratic at the federal level. This is a Biden plus 22 seat. The assembly seat first is being it was occupied by incumbent Democrats Roy Fryman and Andrew Zwicker, but Fryman is running for re-election, but Zwicker is retiring to run for Senate. So the other Democratic spot's been filled by a guy named has been filled by Sadaf Jaffer. You also have the Republicans Vincent Panico and Joseph Lukoc III. We rate this race as likely Democratic for the assembly. For the Senate race here, and for context, this district includes Hunterdon, Mercer, Middlesex, and Somerset County in portions. Longtime Republican incumbent here, Kit Bateman, is retiring. And he famously was able to hold this, I believe, like Clinton plus 16 seat. It's gotten more Democratic since then. In 2017 by just a single point. So like Tom Kean, just a great example of a down ballot Republican doing well. Now Zwicker is the uncontested Democratic candidate here. On the Republican side, you have former Congressman Dick Zimmer. Former Congressman Mike Pappas was also originally running but dropped out of the race. Zimmer has the line. He also faces a challenge in the primary from Jeffrey Grant, but I personally expect Zimmer to win. And Zimmer will be a good candidate for the seat, but it is also very Democratic, and it's unclear whether his name recognition from over 2 decades ago will still apply in a race like this with Bateman retiring. So we actually rank this also likely Democratic, and this also makes it the only flip at the moment in our legislative ratings from one party to another. We don't have any other flips yet, though many of these toss-up races will obviously become flips in November or potentially holds. We'll see.
Yeah, although, by the way, just to make I think he just got us flipped. Zimmer and Pappas, both old congressmen. Zimmer, I think, is the one who dropped out. Pappas is the one who's still on the ballot right now.
Oh, is it that way? I'm not.
Yeah. I have a sample ballot here. I can just TM you.
Oh yeah, my bad. I must have forgotten to update my sheet.
Yeah. Both of them were competing at the time, which is why.
Yeah.
I
just changed it, but they're basically again the same thing. Same things apply. I mean, does the name recognition of 20 years ago apply? And plus, Mike Pappas kind of went down the toilet.
Yeah.
Kenneth Starr thing on the House floor.
Yeah, these guys are old congressmen. They are not recent.
No, yeah.
They're Kip Bateman, from my conversations with New Jersey Democrats, apparently they didn't really contest a seat in 2017. It was sort of like, all right, we can't, because the North Jersey Democrats are just like lazy as hell, in my opinion. At least for some of these campaigns.
That's kind of true. They would have won. They could have won so many more of these races.
They really could. They didn't really try in this district. They're like, okay, we'll just have this throwaway Senate candidate, and like you just have fun there. And she comes within 1 point because of course she does. It's a Clinton plus 14 district or something.
Now it's Biden plus 22.
Yeah, and so Kip Bateman, the Batemans are a longtime group of longtime family here. He decided to retire this year probably because he probably can't win re-election. It's
no, even for him, it would be close, but that's even too much for him to say.
Yeah, it'd be close, but like probably almost certainly not. It includes this district. Was I consider it sort of like gerrymander to include Princeton, and so which is a big reason why it's so competitive, why it's so blue now.
Certainly.
But yeah, otherwise Andrew Zwicker, he was the first Democrat to flip the district. He's probably going to be fine.
And he's a more serious nominee than their last candidate.
Yeah.
Both in 21 and 16, the Democrats do have more serious candidates this time. Let's see here. Yeah. So we'll move on now to the 21st district. Another Biden district, Biden plus 18, but traditionally Republican. Down the ballot, almost even more so than the 16th. And interestingly enough, currently, this is the home of all three of the Republican legislative leaders: the Assembly Minority Leader John Bramnick, the Whip Nancy Munoz, both in the Assembly, and Tom Kean Jr., who's been in the legislature for almost pretty much 2 decades and is the Senate Minority Leader for the Republicans. Ran a narrow campaign loss for Congress against Malinowski last year, came very close in a Biden plus 11 seat, and is now running again, retiring from the Senate to run again in the primary against Rick Maida in 2022 to take on Malinowski in the new district. And Malinowski is in hot water, so that increasingly looks like a good option, regardless of really what the partisan lineup of the midterm environment is going to be. And this has opened up the Senate seat. So John Bramnick is retiring to run for the Senate seat. So Nancy Munoz is on the ballot running for re-election. I think Michelle Matsakudis is the other candidate endorsed on the line there. Then there's a third Republican running off the line, Jennifer McCarr, for the Assembly. On the Democratic side, it is Elizabeth Grainer, and I'm not sure what the other person's first name is, Marartra.
Yeah, something
like that. Yeah, but we consider this lean Republican. And you may be like, what is going on with this being lean Republican in a Biden plus 18 district? But again, this is a district that's famous for down ballot Republican voting. I mean, look at 2017. It was like a Clinton plus 10 seat. Tom Kean still won re-election easily, and both Assembly seats held. Even during the Trump era in 2019 in this exact district, the Democrats kind of blew it again, like you said, with North Jersey Democrats being lazy, and fell short in both seats in this Assembly district. So I consider that.
Yeah, they fell short, and not by a little. And they tried in 2019 to unseat both John Bramnick and Nancy Munoz. And to be clear, like everything was against them at the time. Like not only were Democrats taking it seriously, there was also 2 people running as like Trump conservatives on the ballot, specifically to take away votes from like the rhinos of like John Bramnick and Nancy Munoz, and they took like I think like 1% of the vote each, which okay, it's just 1% of the vote each of the 2%. Oh, that's not much. Oh, but it's a marginal district. That all of that counts for something.
I know.
The combined Republican vote was still 5% more than the combined Democratic vote. So like,
yeah, the marquee race,
that's not that close.
The marquee race here is certainly the Senate race. Kean Jr. is retiring, and you have John Bramnick, uncontested Republican nominee. The Democratic favorite here is Joseph Signorello. And the Democratic, they also have Ed Donnelly running in the primary against Signorello, but I expect Signorello to win. And we have that as a toss-up. That will be one of the very fun, interesting races for any election nerd to watch, one of the close ones in the fall.
Yeah. From what I can tell, Signorello is he's the mayor of Roselle, He's
Yep.
he's a very serious candidate. The other two, they could be serious candidates, but like it's not immediately obvious to me that they are, which is why we're keeping the assembly races at lean Republican while the Senate race at a toss up. But
Yeah, and we have a lot more in terms of serious quality matchups in recent years here. I mean, Palestina, Mazzeo, Gene Stanfield, Adeyo, John Bramnick, Signorello, Pappas, Wicker. These are pretty good matchups with serious candidates. We don't really know for the Senate if these candidates are, or for the Assembly if the candidates aren't serious. Move on to the 25th district, Morris and Somerset. Biden plus 9 district. This one recently had a special election for the Senate and for the Assembly for the other seat. And Ara Dunn, who was appointed to that seat, held on in a closer race. Tony Bucco Jr. held on by about 10 points. Another great example of ticket splitting to succeed his father, who passed away. And he ascended from the Assembly up to the Senate and is now running for a full term in the Senate in a rematch against Democrat Rupande Mehta. The Democrats also have a candidate named Jeffrey Grazel on the ballot, so we're not sure if that's going to happen.
I think they kicked Mehta off the ballot. I think it's Grazel now. I'll check.
Might be. If so, I'll update the list. But regardless, Bucco Jr. doesn't really face that serious competition that we're seeing in some of these other Senate races. So we have his Senate race ranked as likely Republican. In the Assembly, Brian Bergen and R.K. Dunn are still strong, but we think the race is going to be a bit more competitive there. So we have it at lean Republican for those seats.
Yeah. To be clear, when we say special election, this was done concurrently, actually, with the November
presidential
election. Last. So at the same time, where like if you think ticket splitting was big in like New Jersey 7th and Central Jersey, you've got nothing on the Assembly races in Morris County. Biden won this district by like 9 points.
Yeah.
At the same time, Ara Dunn wins her Assembly race by 5 points, and Tony Bucco wins his Senate race by 8 points. So like there's a huge ticket split here, and like add in the fact that it's like an off-year election maybe, and like Phil Murphy, he might win this district, but probably it's like a toss-up. He lost him like 6 points last time around. Now like Republicans should be decent favorites. Republicans are decent favorites.
Bucco. I mean, he's likely.
Yeah, his dad was the old representative here, and he was the old assemblyman, and then he ascended when his dad passed away. But yeah, it's Republicans are definitely at least favored, and Bucco is like fine.
Next, the 38th district, which includes portions of Bergen and Passaic. It's Biden plus 13.4. And again, you may be thinking, why are Biden plus 18 districts and Biden plus 11 districts more competitive than this Biden plus 13 district? We have it as likely Democratic in both for the Assembly and also the Senate, I believe. I honestly would let Ethan talk more about this race because he probably knows more than I do about it. I haven't really followed the 38th district race.
This is a race we put in likely Democratic, mostly to be safe and like because on the fundamental, this used to be actually one of the more competitive races in New Jersey. Bergen used to be a lot less blue than it is now. Now those North Jersey suburbs. The reason Biden plus 13 district here is less competitive than say a Biden plus 18 district in Central Jersey because the hub of ancestral Republicans is really that Central Jersey portion, basically New Jersey 7th and parts of New Jersey 11th. That entire area is where you see the most ticket splitting, and so that's why Biden numbers mean less there. This district in the 38th had a big minority population. They split tickets, but not really. If anything, they split Democratic, and so on the fundamentals, we decided to be safe here because Democrats only won the combined assembly vote by about 10 points in 2019. And this used to be a competitive race. Now, if the Republicans don't try here, we'll probably move to safe Democratic. But like it's something we're keeping an eye out on. Basically, that's what my reason for this rating was at least.
Mm-hmm. And the more competitive rating out of all of this is the 39th district, also including Bergen and Passaic. It's significantly closer at the presidential level. It was only really a Biden plus 5 seat. And it's interesting here, if we talk about the Assembly first, Assembly people Bob Auth and Holly Schapisi were originally both running for re-election to the Assembly, but then longtime Senator Jared Gerald Cardinale, who had been in office. He was 86 years old, passed away, and that opened up another Senate vacancy similar to the Bateman vacancy, and similar to the Bucco Senior vacancy last year. And Holly Schepisi and Bob Auth both ran in the party vote to be elected to that seat. And Holly Schepisi narrowly won. And Bob Auth tried to really brush it off at the end, but there's definitely some hidden saltiness between the two of them because Bob Auth and Deanne DeFuccio are kind of running as their set of assembly candidates, but Holly Schepisi is backing John Azariti Jr. and Jonathan Kirpis, who have both dominated in fundraising over the incumbent, and the incumbent's endorsed second running mate there, essentially. And you have these two competing sides now running in the primary. And again, Bob Auth and Deanne DeFuccio have the line, but you don't really know what's going to happen for sure. I mean, there's been good fundraising coming out of Ariziti in particular. Either way, we have it rated as likely Republican. For the Senate, we have it rated as lean Republican. A Democrat named Ruth Dugan is taking on Holly Schepisi. But as the incumbent, we think Schepisi should be fine. A Biden plus 5 district is more than winnable for Republicans in New Jersey in an off year.
Yeah. And actually, props to Schepisi here. So more context. Back when Jerry Cardinale, he was obviously by the fact that he passed away in office, he was really old. And so back even before he passed away, Holly Schepisi made a really ballsy move in that she declared a primary challenge to him, probably in the county conventions for the line. She's like, okay, your time's up, please retire. And so she was expected to do a sort of, this was expected to be sort of like a suicide run. But then Jerry Cardinale ended up passing away. And so what would probably normally go, the line will probably normally go to Bob Auth because of connections, and also it's just like a bunch of internal stuff. But it's because she already established all these relationships during her initial primary run for the line. She was able to leverage those to win the convention nomination. Now she's senator. But she had to bring her own slate of assembly candidates because just in case she didn't get the line nomination, therefore she was going to run off the line. And as you've seen on the line, the more candidates you have under you, the more credible you seem. So that's why she had those. But yeah, there is some very bad blood. So she has not
very bad relationship now. This has turned into a dumpster fire.
2 assembly candidates, and they have the line in the three towns like Passaic County. We expect Bob Auth and forgot what the other one's name is.
Deanne DeFuccio.
Yeah, we expect them to win, but they're facing quite a credible primary challenge right now.
Certainly, by the fundraising numbers you accumulated there, a credible challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So that concludes really competitive seats. Now we'll be talking about some more safe district, lesser competitive primaries here. So first off, in the let's see. Oh yes, the 26th Assembly District is one we should definitely talk about. If you thought the 39th Assembly primary for the GOP was a dumpster fire, this is the biggest dumpster fire in the New Jersey primary. It's a district that includes Essex, Morris, and Passaic County, but the Morris County portion makes up about 70% of the electorate in the Republican primary, so that's the critical line to get. So you have incumbents Jay Weber and Betty DeCroce, I think, or DeCroce. I'll just say DeCroce. And you also have a third candidate, Christian Barranco, who's running with Jay Weber. Barranco and Weber both have the line in Morris County. The bulk, the 2/3+ % of where the Republican primary voters are going to be coming from. Now, Weber doesn't have the line as the incumbent in Essex and Passaic. That line went to DeCroce. And in Essex, I think it went only to DeCroce and no one else. Now, that is true. DeCroce has been spending a lot of money to hold the seat. But on paper, it's going to be very difficult to hold the seat if you look at the history of success with the line and the fact that DeCroce has the line in the 2 parts of the district county-wise that are pretty much electorally insignificant, don't make up enough of the vote. So unless DeCroce's name recognition can really usurp the line in Morris County, which has gone to Weber and Barranco, she might be done. And we might be looking at a Weber-Barranco lineup for November in a district that is safe Republican.
Yeah, this is a in my opinion, a hilarious race. So
it is hilarious.
This year, the Morris County Republicans finally decided to establish a line. And they said, I've told the story to my friends so many times, they've gone sick of it. What did they do? As soon as they established a line, they kick out one of their own incumbents, DeCroce, for a union official. Christian Barranco is the leader of IBEW. Is one of the officials in IBEW. He is a union official. Now, of course, this is a Republican-leaning union, but still, this is like, yeah,
it is a union.
Yeah, it's still a union, and it's only in one county, only in Morris County, as you mentioned. In the other two counties, they're like, "What are you doing? We're endorsing DeCroce." But of course, they only make up 30% of the primary. So because Barranco is able to pull off this upset at a convention, I don't know how he did it in Morris County. Did this one convention? He's probably going to the assembly.
All the money that DeCroce has doesn't really make a difference because, again, it's just people don't understand it's so hard to beat the line, almost impossible. And when you don't have the line, you'll get like 30% of the vote in the primary, but lose the 70%, and you're done. If you want to do the DeCroce block against the combined Weber-Barranco block, that's what will happen.
Yeah, it's a mess there, but yeah, congratulations to Christian Barranco. I don't know how you did it. He must have had like a long time relationship with, like, I don't know, maybe he bribed like all the.
He has a good relationship with Jay Weber. I mean,
yeah, he has to have some great relationships in Morris County to pull off what he did. But
I've literally gotten rid of an incumbent.
Yeah, January incumbent, not easy at all.
That's the closest thing. We rarely have successful primary challenges against incumbents in New Jersey on any level. So if you want to get rid of an incumbent, screw them over and don't let them get the line. That's really the equivalent of voting them out of office.
Yep. Got a few more examples of that. Yeah.
Next one we'll just briefly touch on because it changed. This was the 31st district in Hudson County where you only have one assembly person chosen. It's safe Democratic, but you had Nicholas Chiaravallotti, who was the incumbent, also the whip for the Democrats in the assembly. And the mayor of Bayonne, I think it was, he decided he got tired of his handpicked choice from the last election and screwed him over and picked a guy named William Sampson, who was like a crane operator. And now Chiaravallotti has dropped out and Sampson's the presumptive nominee. So if that doesn't say machine state, I don't really know what does. But
there's an unspoken agreement in that district that the mayor of Bayonne gets to choose one of the assembly candidates, and that's how I can't pronounce that. Got into the assembly in the first place. So yeah, live by the machine, die by the machine, apparently.
And if William Sampson does not appease the mayor of Bayonne over his first term, he may be going back to operating crane machines after being a victim of the political machine. So we'll see. Let's see. Do you know? Is there anything we wanted to talk about for the 13th Assembly District? I'm not.
I mean, we can just briefly mention what's going on there. So
why don't we do that?
Sure. In the 13th district, there one of the incumbent Assemblywoman, Serena DeMasso. She, again, machine state. She got under the skin of the local county Republicans by endorsing some of her for friends for some local offices. And they're like, that's not our line candidate. You can't do that. We're kicking you off the assembly for that. You're being subordinate. And she's pretty much gone.
And who are the who's the endorsed Republican there?
The replaced her was Vicky Flynn, I believe, and someone Scharfenberger.
Okay, let me just
who himself, I believe, also replaced an assemblywoman that the county machine got tired of and kicked off the line.
You have to remember, guys, the county machines get tired of things very easily, and they basically they just rain down with hellfire on these people, and they're like smite them, and then they're gone.
Yeah, machine state.
I mean, I don't like to say it, but I mean it's true. I mean, we are a machine state. I mean, there's no other way of putting it.
Yeah,
but I like it because it's such a core part of our politics as New Jerseyans.
Yeah, there's occasionally there's a few candidates who can get in without the machine, but
so yeah, basically Serena DeMasso, just like Betty DeCroce, is done, and unlike DeCroce, she doesn't have the line anywhere because it's just in Monmouth, so you're kind of screwed.
And unlike DeCroce, who had a war chest stocked up
and has the line in two parts of the district, because
she had a war chest stocked up because it was a competitive district, so she had some money stored up. at least to give her a semblance of a chance in the primary. DeMoss was in a safe Republican district, so she had like no money. So when she was kicked off the line, she's like, "Oh shit, I can't
do anything anymore." Oh well, but she's still running.
She's running. She won't win.
No, no, she won't win. That's true. Yeah. Moving on to 3 Safe District Senate primaries. Could you just tell us a little bit about each one, maybe a minute or so on each? Because again, I haven't followed these as closely, and I'm trying to catch up before the primary. But District 37.
District 37 is interesting. So longtime Democratic Senator Loretta Weinberg is retiring this year, and to replace her are the 2 assembly candidates, Gordon Johnson, a black establishment Democrat, and Valerie Veneeri Huddle, a white, more progressive woman. They could be at a convention, and Gordon Johnson won the line here, and in the I think in the Bergen portion of the county, although Huddle won the line in the Passaic portion. The Passaic portion is much smaller though.
Yeah.
Now Huddle had the choice to just go back and sit down and shut up back in her assembly seat, but she decided to go fight it out. Bring along with her own endorsed slate of candidates. There's a decent number of progressive groups supporting Huddle in the primary, spending money, but she doesn't have the line in most of the districts, so she's probably not going to win. But she's trying. She's spending money.
And again, from what I remember in this district, I mean, it is safe Democratic in the general election, but Loretta Weinberg is kind of a household name in New Jersey for political junkies. But in fact, they just established a new scholarship for her, a law scholarship at Rutgers, I think. But again, Valerie Huddle having the line in Passaic is about as helpful as DeCroce having the line in Essex. In terms of raw votes, it doesn't really do very much.
Yeah, she's probably going to lose. She had, unlike say DeMasso, she had like a small chance just because she has some endorsements, she has some money to spend, but like otherwise, it's almost impossible to beat the line.
And what do you have to say about the 38th primary in Senate District? That's another interesting one.
The 38th primary?
Is there one? I'm not. I might have mixed up my number things.
No, here. I don't think there's one in 38. There's one in 37, which is one we talked about.
Is there one in 20?
Yeah, the last one is 20 though. This one's a fun one. Controversial assemblyman and notable anti-vaxxer, Jamel Hawley, a black Democrat, has decided, who's one of the assemblymen here, has decided to primary the incumbent white Democrat, Joe Cryan. Joe Cryan has been here for a while, and Cryan has the backing of all of the establishment. Now this isn't your normal. Now when you hear like, oh, maybe black Democrat primary white Democrat, you might think, oh, maybe it's a progressive primary someone to his right. No, not really for here. Jamel Hawley isn't a progressive. He's an anti-vaxxer. He has some like weird conspiracy theories. He's made a lot of enemies.
You find this in New Jersey too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a heavy majority minority district. Hold on, let me just make sure.
I want to double check that too. I'm not 100% sure.
I think this is the Revelle district.
The demographics on Wikipedia say 42% Hispanic, like 25% Black, or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Hold on. I just wanted to. I think this is the Elizabeth district. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is based in Elizabeth, which is heavily
Hispanic.
Heavily Hispanic, and so normally you'd think, okay, a white Democrat probably isn't the best fit for this place, but Jamel Hawley, he's spending decent money, but personally, I think he's more like a joke in my opinion. So I don't. Yeah, he's like Hirsch.
They're both anti-vaxxers, so
another Democratic Hirsch Singh. So, and he spread like false. He spread like these ludicrous attacks like in these ridiculous attack ads and charges. If you look up Jamel Hawley, you'll find a ton of ridiculous stuff on him.
I would honestly recommend not looking up Jamel Hawley or Hirsch Singh or Lisa McCormick.
Yeah, or don't, because they won't matter anymore. hopefully after Tuesday.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, Cryan has the line. Let's hope he wins.
Yeah, he had all although like he had to have like the machine coming for him, like a bunch like the governor pointedly endorsed him, Phil Murphy endorsed him, like he's got he's spending a decent amount of money here. He's of course outspending Hawley because he has the machine backing, but he's taking it seriously. But he has the line. I expect Cryan to be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that really brings our coverage to a close here. So we'll see you again on Tuesday. Do you have anything else to add, Ethan?
Yeah. So watch our stream on Tuesday, and we'll just be discussing what's going on. As you can probably tell from the stream, there aren't many. New Jersey isn't a state with competitive primaries generally, so we don't expect any upsets or many potentials for upsets. But we'll be watching to see what happens. Who knows? Hirsch Singh might do it somehow. Nah, probably not.
No, probably not. That would be very bad for Republican.
Yeah,
I would probably go cry if Hirsch Singh won.
We might finally get Blonde Myth. Finally, after 20 years of narrow, close calls, but never quite getting there.
We'll see. We'll see. But regardless, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on Tuesday at 8 o'clock when the polls close in New Jersey. Thank you so much.
All right, see ya.